Hi guys, I thought I'd make you a short, slightly random video. So as it's a sunny day, well, it's a sunny evening, so I'm outside, and you might be able, I don't know if you can hear my fan, but I've got my hand fan because it's quite warm in London. And I'm just doing some craft this evening. So this is what happened today. Let me introduce you to the craft first. Okay, so I have my, this is what we call a flower press. And I got this when I was a child, really young. And yeah, so it's obviously lasted well, you know. It's basically got card, paper, and you just unscrew here. I'll show you in a bit. And then you can just lie your, so it's a flower press. You could press leaves as well if you want to. So I'm going to be pressing leaves. I found a really interesting plant outside today on one of my walks, and it was a very short walk. I didn't go too far, but I found all these interesting leaves, and I thought, technically they're a weed, so they're not going to last very long. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to pick these leaves and I'm going to press them and I'm going to do something with them. So let me show you an example. Here's one that I've actually been lying flat, so it's a really nice shape to show you. Let's use the white paper, shall we? I've got a bit of white paper here. Okay, see if we can maneuver it. There we go. So here's an example of the leaf that I found today. There we go. So it's very hard to show you. Hang on a second, it's going to move. So if we can just double over that paper, and then I can try and hold it up like this. Okay, so I found a plant with these leaves today. So I knew this plant wasn't going to be there for long. So I thought I'll have those. You know, and I'll also press petals which have already fallen, but you know, they're fresh, so that I'm not absolutely having to you know, go out and pick like an absolutely lovely flower and then press it. I will also choose things that have fallen on the floor or something that I know is going to probably not be there for much longer. So we've got a variety. So I found some, you know, where obviously I don't know what the effect was for them, but there was some insects eating on these. Whereas some others are absolutely pristine. They're just coming into, what would you say, for weeds that we remove from the garden? I don't know, but they're, I had a word and then I distracted myself. Okay, so as you can see, the leaves aren't completely flat. So what I do in this instance is I'll choose my leaves and then I'll get something flat. So I've just got a little box here. It's got some foils in it for when I'm doing craft. But it's got a flat bottom and it's this side's flat too. Oh, sound. Okay, so what I'll do is I will, oh, someone's banging doors, you know. So normally when I'm sitting outside, I want to talk to you, but normally I would actually have some music on so that it's not too much going on for me. Okay, so let's turn the camera around a bit. Turn this around and show you. So see if we can make this work. So we've got the tray here. Okay, so we've got the leaves, and then what I'll do is position out the leaves. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that everything's laying as you want it to be, because once we you know, we're trying to flatten it out, then what's going to happen is anything that's folded, that's the way it's going to dry. So it's always worth, especially with leaf, like, you know, I've got a leaf here which looks absolutely perfect, so I'm going to take the time with it so that once the process is done, I've got the result that I want, because this is a one-time only opportunity. So I can't repress these. And also, as I said, this is a very, very unusual find. So I probably won't find it again. And that's the same when you have flowers. Sometimes you find a flower and it only blooms at a certain point in the year. Some flowers only bloom, in alternating years. There's cactus. I mean, I was watching a really interesting YouTube documentary actually about, these the biggest flowers in the world. And they were like flytrap type things, and the kind of cactus variety plants. And so I was watching this guy. He went out to see. I should have watched it again before I mentioned it down there, to tell you where he was and everything else. But I guess the point I'm making is that these flowers are massive. Like, they were human size. And you wouldn't be able to press one of those. But oh yeah, that's why I'm saying it, because they only flower like, I wouldn't like to put a time limit on the one he was looking at, but some of them it's every 20 years. Some of them it's a really rare occurrence, So they'll have people who are aware of what's going on with the flowers, and then they'll alert other people so they can hopefully get there in time to see this sometimes once in a lifetime opportunity to see this particular flower, like an exotic flower. But yeah, I just remember them being quite Venus flytrappy. I also remember that apparently they stink, so they didn't smell fragrant. And obviously I want to, oh, there's a bee. Probably is that bee is enjoying the flowers in the garden. The bee wouldn't be able to go near this Venus flytrap. It absolutely allegedly stinks. So anyway, and it's not a Venus flytrap. I'm just trying to kind of give a visual of I should find this plant, shouldn't I? I should share a screen with you and find this plant. Hang on a second. Let's see. Okay, so largest flower in the world. Oh no, I'm actually leaning on my stuff. Okay, so this looks like the guy actually. Let me share with you guys. Okay, this is like the man I was actually watching. Let's see. Okay, so you can see that now. Look at the size of this thing. Yeah, that's what I was watching. It's this gentleman, and he very specifically, oh, there's someone shutting the door there. He very specifically wants to see this flower. And I can't remember how long it takes to how regularly it blooms, but it's like, it's so rare. So it was really important to kind of be on top of it. So what would we say this flower is called? Because we're not going to watch the video. Hang on, does it say it in the description? Plants, world's biggest trailing flower. Okay, so what's it called though? Let's learn something today about flowers. Okay, world's largest bloom is the Rafflesia Arnoldi. Rafflesia Arnoldi. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and I should be able to pronounce it considering I watched that gentleman's documentary. But just look at the size of these flowers. I mean, look at this. So this is the largest flower. And if it's anything like what he was describing, it doesn't smell good. And this person has got their face literally right close to this flower, but it doesn't look the same. Oh, I don't know. They're brave, aren't they? I don't know. Oh, look, he's really close to it. Isn't that? Yeah. Oh, loads of people get close to it. Okay, fine. They obviously brave it, but the man in the video said that they smelled bad. Anyway, so what we're going to do? So we've laid out our some of our leaves, and I've rearranged this one here. So now I'm going to put a box over it, and that's just going to help to keep those leaves in place, because I did the same to this one, and they're absolutely lying flat now. So that's great. Yeah, and it's really interesting because this is free material for my artwork, so that's, it's quite nice. So let's put the screen up a bit. Okay, now I've shown you what's on the table. Okay, so I've basically got loads of other bits and pieces to go through here. And what I'd recommend is I pulled these fresh. So So when I pulled these out, they were all brand new. You know, so some of them were living, whereas now they're shriveling a bit. So, you know, the little ones are more fresh. So my recommendation is, you know, once you've got the plant, try and work on it straight away. It's not something where you pick the plants and then come back tomorrow. It's something where, you know, you need to kind of get on top of it now. I mean, look at this. I mean, it was curly, but look at it now. I mean, it's already going brittle, you see. So I could probably work with it, but it would be quite fragile, whereas this one's pristine because I did that one really early. I mean, it's still kind of got a little bit of give in it, but it's very dry. Okay, so yeah, so again, these leaves are curling over. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do there is very gently unroll each leaf and then try and just put a little bit of weight on it and then move on to the next leaf. And then when I've done that, I'll put them, you know, I'll put a cover sheet over. So this is what I recommend. So I've actually got quite a lot of foliage here because, as I said, I had to get rid of the plant anyway. It was out on a walk, so you know it was going to, you know, it couldn't stay there. And the leaves are, you know, they're of no use to anyone, so they're of use to me because I can make some really great artwork. But what I'll do now, because I haven't laid them all out flat, but just to show you the kind of volume, so I've got quite a few leaves here. So what I'll do after that is, because of that, and I've only got a small flower press, instead of doing them individually, I was thinking I'll just take another piece of paper, lay that over the top, and then I'm a book collector. So what I'm going to do is, because I've seen people do this, and this is a risk. I wouldn't put the papers inside a book, because if it does, if you know, obviously there is liquid in those leaves, you know, it's minimal, chances are it's not going to go through the paper, but you wouldn't want that to happen with one of your books. So what I'm going to do is, so I've got my leaves, they've got a paper on each side, they're in between two pieces of paper. I'll put one book underneath the paper, put two pieces of paper on top with my leaves, and then I'll put maybe 3 or 4 really heavy books on top of that. And then I recommend that you leave them for approximately, as long as you can, actually. I have a leaf to show you from, this is from 2 years ago, and I wasn't doing an artwork, so I didn't have any reason to take it out. So I just left it. And so obviously after 2 years, it's absolutely dry. But no, you could probably leave it. What I would do is I'd leave it for maybe 4 or 5 days to make sure, because when you want to work with flowers, you do need them to be dry. I mean, obviously they'll still carry on drying by air, but we don't want that crinkled kind of, as you can see, the leaves are kind of curling in. If you want a flatter, you know, result, then leave it in as long as you know, leave it in for 4 or 5 days. Then just go and have a look, lightly take up the paper. Don't disrupt it too much, because otherwise if you move everything, you've got to rearrange it all again. And you know, they're very delicate once they've dried out. They're very delicate. They're like thin paper, the flowers and the leaves. So you can very easily like tear them, or they get stuck to the paper. So it's kind of a take your time process, a bit like this, you know. It's not a fast art, this. I'm just I'm going to unscrew every single corner, and then I'm going to gently take it apart, because I can't remember if I've got anything else in there, but I know I've got a leaf in there. Just another one of those unusual times when I stumbled across a leaf. Well, to be fair, I actually do, there's a door there. I actually do go for walks. I love going to gardens. I love walking through parks, fields. So there, you know, if you are someone like me who loves taking pictures of flowers and trees, you do notice different plants around. So whereas someone else might have walked past these leaves, to me, I was like, oh, that's so strange. Wow, I wonder how they got there. I'll have those. And there was nothing, it was just the leaves growing. You know, there wasn't anything else, there wasn't anything else sprouting up. Some of these baby leaves implies that, you know, maybe, but that's another fallacy, you know, like you have the, so for example, with the plants, okay, but I think by this stage we know what kind of leaves we're talking about. Well, with the plants, you have a male plant and a female plant. I'm pretty sure it's the male plant which is the one you want, and it's the female plant which has no value in terms of, it's got value, absolutely, you know, because there's so many products you can make, hemp products and so forth, but in terms of when people like to do cookery and pay, you know, origami with their plants, then obviously, this bird is so loud. Can you hear? I'm sure you can hear the bird. Right, okay, well the leaf's really high, really close up, so look, oh my gosh. Now there's a little fold in this. Oh, I've just see, okay, I'm going to show you this. Okay, so I just destroyed the leaf that I've had in here for 2 years. Okay, so this leaf was in there for 2 years. They're quite different as well. So people think, oh, you know, there's just one type of, you know, why are you interested in these things? They're just one type. But actually, you know, these are very hard to show you in the wind and super delicate. But these are different. I mean, they're quite similar in shape. And maybe this one will be a lot more faded once, you know, a lighter color, but there's so many different types. And if I find some more with different types of leaves, I'll show you, because I think people just think, oh, there's this, and they're familiar with like maybe a graphic of what that is. But look, guys, look what I did. So this leaf was looking beautiful. There was just one little twist in one of the leaves. So I went to turn it, and I just broke it off. It didn't break off because of the paper. It broke off because I tried to readjust it because it had a turn in it. So that's what I'm saying. It's such a delicate process. And if you've held on to something for 2 years, oh wow, look at the side of it. So amazing. I don't know if you can see, but I've also pressed the crystals that are on the leaf. It's really interesting, you know, and if you say, oh, I'm not interested in this kind of stuff, that's absolutely fine. If you are interested, you know, it's a really in-depth subject. You know, we're talking about horticultural stuff here. I'm sure that in so many years to come that you can get a degree in using this, probably for medication, cooking, for what do you call it? All sorts of products, really. It's really interesting. And people who have, for example, so people who have like myself, for example, who have a condition which affects the nervous system. So people who have tics, for example, medications which involve this particular plant can really relax you. It can really ease your, because people say, oh, doesn't it give you paranoia? Doesn't it make you anxious? And but it's actually like, well, no, if you're someone who tick, 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 and then you have something which allows you to kind of go like that, you're more paranoid when you're tick, tick, tick and everyone's staring at you. You know, so it's just interesting to see how we can, you know, open these discussions. And what's interesting as well is the fact that if I do make an artwork with these leaves, which obviously, you know, I'm going to, or I'll just leave them in the press for the next 2 or 3 years. But let's say I did an artwork, then I'd be quite happy, because I'm neither saying This is something you should do or you shouldn't do. It's something you should accept or you shouldn't accept. What I'm saying is, this exists, discuss. And that's what we should be doing with everything. It shouldn't be, this exists, it's bad. If you talk about it, you're bad. If you don't talk about it and completely reject it, you're a good person. End of story. It's like, you might have the luxury to reject certain things because you don't have, for example, a nervous system condition, which affects you daily, constantly, you know, pretty regularly. And at the same time, you know, I just think that at the end of the day, we need to research things and we need to have open discussions and get past all the, oh, this is what this means if you like this, and this is what type of person you are if you do that. Let's get past all that, let all that out, let it go. Let's have a real discussion, you know, about pros and cons, about benefits and about limitations, about what these things would look like if we, you know, brought them into the public. So for example, I was saying the other night in a video, oh, you know, when it comes to, when I talk about art and I talk a lot about the individual as opposed to talking about political, because when we make political decisions, it implicates the mass. So for example, you have to be very careful when you're talking about making laws and doctrines and, you know, putting things out in society which are actually only really placating a small group of people but detrimental to a larger group of people. This is something you have to think about with politics, because that's what happens once you make these decisions. Then that's what everyone has to kind of live their life by. So the implication of that can be that someone suffers more because of that, you know, or that just because you feel that, or not, you know, just because someone feels that their rights have been attended to, it could completely affect a whole other group of people, you know. So I think we need to have these discussions. We need to be more analytical about things and less emotional. You know, we have our emotional response and then we leave it at the door and we start focusing and talking about how we sort things out. And so it's quite interesting, you know, if I do work with mediums such as leaves, because such a simple medium, something that I had a lot of joy and quite a lot of surprise finding today. I don't know. And also imagining the story of how it came about, how it got there. I'm glad it was me that got there first, though, because it was in a public place, but it was a bit hidden, and I get into the flower beds and I get under the trees and stuff when I'm doing photography. Whereas most people, you know, probably would have just walked by. But it was somewhere visible. So I'm just kind of like, I'm so glad it was me. So yeah. Anyway, so I've shown you basically what happens at the end. So, you know, then we're going to leave it in here. And then when we're finished, we're going to put this back on and we're going to put all the screws back on and then come back to it. So when I put those ones in from today, then I'll come back in 4 or 5 days and just see how they are. And if you're in no rush for them, you may as well leave them for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, you know, just forget about it. And then when you come back, don't fiddle with them. If you've got a crease in it, that was how nature intended it. That's how it wanted to lay on your page. Don't do what I just did and take a 2-year-old pressing, which we were very fond of, which has these amazing crystals on, which we were thinking about some form of light, seeing if it still works under light. And then you ripped off the leaf because of a tiny little crease. Yeah, don't do that. But enjoy nature, enjoy the garden, enjoy the flowers, enjoy the petals, enjoy the leaves. And you know, and all it takes is some 2 pieces of paper and a book, a couple of books, a weight or a brick. So yeah, all right then, I think I'll leave it there. I was going to be about 2 to 5 minutes, but these things happen. All right then guys, see you soon.